Today we are going to be focusing on Lesson 8 of Chapter 4, which is focusing on dividing fractions. The number one rule that you need to remember is you never truly divide fractions, okay? When you come across a problem where you see the division sign with fractions, the one thing that should come across in your mind is a red flag or a little light that tells you, hey, I never divide fractions. I always multiply by the reciprocal, okay? And so you can see here in words, they have shown you or told you, okay, what you need to do when you are dividing fractions, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to multiply by the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal, okay? So if you want to put a little star by that or underline that in your book, that might not be a bad idea. The one thing that you want to remember is when you're dividing fractions, the first fraction always stays the same, okay? So what I mean by that is, if we start off with 7/8 divided by 3/4, this first fraction that's listed always stays the same. So 7/8 stays as 7/8. Division changes to multiplication. You're multiplying by the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse. So the reciprocal of 3/4 is going to be 4/3. So now I have a new problem set up, 7/8 times 4/3. And if you guys remember back in lesson 6, you guys learned how to multiply fractions, so we've already done this. When I take a look at this problem then, one of the things that I'm going to look at first and foremost is can I cross reduce? Okay, I can cross reduce here. I can divide both 8 and 4 by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, 8 divided by 4 is 2, 7 times 1 is 7, 2 times 3 is 6, and 7 over 6 would be the same as 1 and 1/6. So I have my answer, okay? Again, the first fraction does not change. Division changes to multiplication, and you always multiply by the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse, okay? You can see here an example in terms of what your multiplicative inverses are, your reciprocals. Remember, if you have 1/4, you would flip that. It'd be the same as 4 over 1, or the whole number 4. Example 1, they're giving you, you have a fraction divided by a whole number. One of the things that may help you is when you have these whole numbers, put the number 1 underneath it, okay? Again, we never truly divide fractions. We always multiply by the reciprocal. First fraction stays the same, so I have 1/3. Division is going to change to multiplication. The reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse of 5 over 1 would be 1/5. So we've rewritten it as a multiplication problem. Next step would be to look to see if you can cross reduce. I can't cross reduce anywhere, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply my numerators, multiply my denominators, and then check to see if I need to simplify. So 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 5, 15. As we take a look at 329 at the top, they give you another example. You've got a fraction times a negative fraction. So again, you're thinking to yourself, we never truly divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. First fraction stays the same, so 3/4. Division changes to multiplication. Reciprocal of -1/2 would be -2 over 1. I look to see if I can cross reduce, and I can. 2 goes into both 2 and 4, so 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Can't cross reduce there. So now I'm taking 3 times -1, which would give me a -3. 2 times 1, which would give me 2. So I end up with -3 over 2. Again, we want to simplify that out or rewrite it as a mixed number. So 2 goes into 3 once, and again we have the negative. 3 minus 2 is 1, so -1 and 1/2. I can check it. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 would be 3, so I have -3 over 2. Go ahead and pause your video and take a moment to work on Got It problems A, B, and C. Please make sure when you're working on these that you show the multiplication problem. As we're taking a look at letter A, when I rewrite that, remember first fraction stays the same, so I have 3/4. Division changes to multiplication. Reciprocal of 1/4 would be 4 over 1. Now I'm looking to see if I can cross reduce. I can't cross reduce with 3 and 1, but I can cross reduce on my 4s. I can divide both of them by 4, so 4 divided by 4 is 1. Same thing there. Now I can multiply my numerators. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. So my answer should be 3. 3. So you can check to see if you have that one correct. Letter B, negative divided by a positive. First fraction stays the same. Division changes to multiplication. Reciprocal of 8/9 would be 9/8. Look to see if I can cross reduce. I can't there, but I can here. I can divide them both by 4. So I'd have a -1 and a 2. -1 times 9 would give me -9. 5 times 2 is 10. And that would be in simplest form. We'd have -9/10. Taking a look at lesson C, or letter C. -5/6, so that fraction stays the same. Division changes to multiplication. Reciprocal of -2/3 would be -3/2. So I'm looking to see if I can cross reduce, and I can't there. However, I can with -3 and 6. I know that 3 will go into both of them. So that's going to become a 1. This is going to become a 2. -5 times -1 would be a +5. 2 times 2 is 4. 5/4 is going to be the same as 1 and 1/4. Okay, so hopefully you were able to come up with the same answers that I was. As we move on and take a look at the next section, we're going to be focusing on dividing mixed numbers. Okay, very similar to when we were multiplying, one of the things that we're going to want to do, as you can see here, is first rename that mixed number into an improper fraction. So you can go ahead and look at the examples that they have given you. 2/3, 2/3 stays the same. Division, and then 3 1/3 would be the same as 10/3. One thing that I recommend doing is changing your mixed numbers into improper fractions right away before you change your division sign. So again, 2/3 divided by, this has been changed to 10/3. Then you can change it to a multiplication problem. So 2/3 times 3/10. Look to cross reduce, which we can. So when we multiply straight across, okay, these are going to cancel out and become 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 5 is 5, so we end up with 1/5. One of the things that ends up happening if you switch this too soon or change it to the multiplicative inverse too soon is the fact that sometimes we forget that we need to multiply, or we end up changing this to multiplication and we forget to use the reciprocal. So please take your time on that. Okay, let's talk about D, E, and F together. When we take a look at letter D, remember I have 5, so that'd be the same as 5/1. I'm going to leave division yet. I'm going to rename 1 1/3 as an improper, which would be 4/3. Okay, now I have two fractions, so now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it as a multiplication problem. So 5/1, first one stays the same. Division changes to multiplication. Reciprocal of 4/3 would be 3/4. Can I cross reduce anywhere? No, I cannot. So 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 4 is 4. So then I have to reduce that. 15 divided by 4. 4 goes into 15 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. So 15 minus 12 would be 3/4. And I can check that. 4 times 3 is 12. Plus 3 would be 15/4. Looking at letter E, again, I've got -3/4 divided by. We're renaming that, which would be 3/2. Now I can change it to a multiplication problem. So -3/4 times the reciprocal would be 2/3. I can cross reduce, that's going to be a 1 and a 1 because I can divide both of those by 3. 4 and 2 can be divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So now I have -1 times 1, which would be -1. 2 times 1 is 2, so we should come up with -1/2. And then looking at, got it, problem letter F, again I want to rename, so 2 1/3 would be the same as 7/3 divided by 5, or 5/1. So first fraction stays the same, 7/3, division changes to multiplication, reciprocal of 5/1 would be 1/5. Can't cross reduce anywhere, so 7 times 1 is 7, 3 times 5 is 15, so we should have 7/15 as we work through that one. Okay, last example that we want to take a moment to look at is example 4. Taking our objective of dividing fractions and putting it into a real world problem or a story problem. So it says the side pieces of a butterfly house are 8 1/4 inches long. How many side pieces can be cut from a board measuring 49 1/2 inches long? So thinking about this, we know we have a board that's going to be 49 1/2 inches long, and I want to figure out how many times I can break it down into pieces that are going to be 8 1/4. So technically we should be thinking division here. You can see that your book went ahead and showed the division of it. So you have 49 1/2 divided by 8 1/4. Again, when you're working with those mixed numbers, rename first. So 49 1/2 would be the same as 99/2 divided by, we're going to rename 8 1/4, which would be 33/4. Once you have them as improper, then you can go ahead and change it to a multiplication problem. So first fraction stays the same, division changes to multiplication. 33/4, the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse would be 4/33. Check to see if we can reduce, and we can in both spots. So you can see in your book, they're taking 2 and 4 and dividing both of them by 2. 33 and 99, dividing both of them by 33. So now we're working with much smaller numbers, which makes it a lot easier. 3 times 2 gives you 6, 1 times 1 is 1. So basically, how many side pieces can we cut out? We can cut out 6 side pieces. All right. What I would like you to do at this moment then is to go ahead and take a look at your website for this lesson and go ahead and start working on your extra practice problems. Those extra practice problems should be starting on page 333, and then you can follow the directions on the website from there.